Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I get to learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And I have a fellow film fan here, Melissa Berne. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I was very excited to be invited to talk about our favorite things, right? Us as movie and TV nerds
Mhm.
talking about TV and movie things.
Absolutely. And before we get started with all of my fun questions, would you like to shamelessly plug anything or point our audience into where they might be able to check out some of your thoughts?
Yeah, so a couple of platforms I'm active on. You can follow me on Instagram at my name, which is Melissa Berne. That's Berne for audio friendly people. And then I do have my YouTube, which I do have to check really quick because I kind of recently changed the name. This is gonna be a fun time. I don't personally know it because I changed it, but it's youtube.com/ Mel Loves Movies and Books.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure to put all these into the description on the video in case you want to check out any of Melissa's thoughts on books and movies and all kinds of fun things. So,
Yeah.
anything else?
That's about it. I am on X as
Ah,
well.
yes.
I barely consume that platform, and that one I'm just at your girl Melbourne. But yeah, what are we supposed to be calling that? Like tweeting, posting, Xing? I don't know.
Xing, I guess.
Xing. I guess it's Xing.
The next time anybody tells me that Elon Musk is some kind of genius, I'm going to tell them he had one of the most impressive brands in the history of technology, which literally changed human language to the point where we had a term tweeting. And he's like, you know what? I don't like that. X. So I
Oh,
don't know.
I don't know.
Well, now I could go over to our other social media overlord, Mark Zuckerberg, and Thread instead.
Exactly. I mean, at least Zuckerberg has, kept the name. I mean, it is Meta, but we still call it Facebook and Instagram. He
Yeah.
didn't like disrupt it so much. I mean, the X makes me kind of want to not be on that platform.
I
So
want to know how many people deleted the app the second it turned to X. Because I know at least a handful of people who literally did that. And they're just like, no,
no.
no, thank you.
Yeah, X does not mark the spot. I am leaving.
Goodbye. But my first question that I always like to jump off with my first interview with people, which
Hmm.
might be people's favorite question or maybe the one that they hate to answer the most. But Mel, what's your favorite movie?
See, I think if you are a movie lover, that is the worst question to ask. It's so
Nicolas Cage
hard.
agrees, as according to Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
It's so hard. There's so many because I mean, okay, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I always tell people this movie though. I said
Okay.
all that knowing what I'm gonna answer, and I pick a childhood favorite because I just remember being completely lost and enchanted with 1999, The Mummy. Yes,
Ah,
that's with Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz. People may have expected a more artistic answer, but I have to answer with my heart and soul,
mm,
and it is The Mummy. I grew up watching Indiana Jones as well.
mm,
It would always be on TV, and Last Crusade would always be on TV a lot. Like that's probably my favorite indie movie.
mm,
And then this came out, and this was an opportunity for me to watch an adventure movie on the big screen, though.
mm.
So that was kind of like a very exciting moment for me. And I remember being taken to the movie theater by my mom, and I remember her really enjoying the movie too, and she was laughing because the movie is really funny, and
Mm.
I remember sharing that experience with her, and to this day, even now if she catches me watching it, she's like, are you watching this again?
Yeah,
I'm like, yes, I
100%.
can watch it like I'm watching it for the first time. And I think that's just something super special about having that feeling for a particular movie because now it's like 20 years old, so yeah.
It sure is. It is 24 years old. Um, it's graduating. It might be graduating grad school, depending on what program it's in. Um, I first off, I'm a huge fan of Last Crusade. That is my favorite Indiana Jones too.
That one.
I love it. Him and his dad is like the greatest. And The Mummy from 1999 is one of the last great like real adventure
Adventure.
films.
I say it all the time. They don't make them like that anymore.
No, it's
Oh,
basically that and the first Pirates movie
yes, that's
are
another
like
great one. That's 20 years old. Sorry, I can't do math, y'all. But that is 20 years
that
old.
one is indeed 20 years old,
Yeah,
2003.
exactly.
But Brendan Fraser is such a talented actor, but he's so charismatic, and Rick O'Connell is such an amazing, like swashbuckling, roguish lead, and Rachel Weisz, which continued the long trend of frumping up beautiful women just to be like, hey, look, she has glasses and she likes books. She's a nerd. And just like, it's Rachel Weisz. Just look at her. But like the whole cast is fantastic. The story is great. It honestly scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah, I
I'm a
mean,
big baby too.
there's that opening scene where we see Imhotep being made into a mummy, and then like his tongue is about to be cut off.
Yep,
But it's still horrifying, even though we don't ever actually see it, but it's still horrifying because he's
yep.
so horrified, and then it cuts away and makes it even
Oh, the
scarier.
look on his face, it
Yeah.
just says it all. And low key, Benny is one of the greatest side like villains in any movie.
Yeah.
And him,
Hilarious.
yes, and Rick O'Connell yelling at him that he's on the wrong side of the river is still one of the
Classic
greatest.
line. I need that line on a shirt somewhere. Honestly, I feel like there should be more The Mummy merch. I know there's some out there, but
Mhm.
it's not to the degree where there's like 15,000 millions of Star Wars and Marvel. And I just feel like that movie is just it's a special one. I really love it.
It's a bad time because now every hoodie's gonna say, I am Knuff. And we're gonna have to find some time to make some mummy merch later.
Yeah.
Now, Mel, what's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
I'm pretty sure it was Pocahontas.
Okay.
It's tough to remember. And I also grew up in a different country, like for the first few years of my life. So there weren't like that many theaters, but I think at that
Mhm.
moment in in time, I was taken to some movie house
Mhm.
somewhere. And then it was probably Pocahontas. Yeah.
And no matter where you are, they have Disney there.
Of
So,
course. Even back then it was the conglomerate.
and
Even
that was like that
yeah.
was at peak coming off peak Disney Renaissance there because that followed up Lion King, and it's just like Disney is everywhere.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think my earliest memory is the same around the same time, except it was Space Jam. So it's a little bit different.
But I
But
but I also grew up watching that all the time on TV. So that's another one that our generation probably also loves nostalgically.
which is also why we were very apprehensive and mad about the new Space
Yeah.
Jam,
Well, oof,
which
oof.
not why was it 2 hours? Like that's
I
what
don't
I want to
know.
know.
That's a typical problem I see in a lot of movies these days. They're like 2 hours or two and a half. What happened to the 90-minute feature? Like Talk to Me was 90 minutes. Like mad respect to Raka Raka who made that movie.
It made me
That's very
laugh.
long.
It made me cry. It scared the living crap out of me. And it was
Yeah,
95 minutes.
it's
Accomplished
amazing.
so much.
Yes, bring the 90-minute feature back, please.
It's a nice change of pace after sitting through Oppenheimer, which absolutely devastated me emotionally. And then it's just like, yeah, you sat here for 3 hours. Enjoy that.
No, I was 20 minutes late to my screening and it still felt long.
Well, to be fair, he still had 2 hours and 40 minutes of movie.
Ugh.
Now, do you have a particular favorite genre of movies?
I am annoying. I like all genres of movies. I see. I
That's
just talked
not
about
annoying. That's great.
talked. I
We
do.
love that.
I talked about my favorite adventure, an
Mhm.
animated movie, and I talked about horror movies. I love all of them. Um, I could say I appreciate the ones that are multifaceted, and I think a genre like horror kind of lends
Mhm.
itself to that because it's usually also talking about other things like with Talk to Me, won't spoil it, but you've seen the trailers. It's it's like it's a possession movie, but it's also in a way a family drama as well. And it's talking about, how certain things can manifest if you don't
Mhm.
deal with things and talk through things. And it's really talking about some other stuff in there. And then Jordan Peele's horror movies usually always have some sort of social commentary in
Yeah.
there. And I really like that about horror. And I've been last year when I made my movie list, a lot of my favorite movies on my list were horror movies.
Mhm.
Um, so I really love that genre. But again, like it just depends what catches my interest as well. I usually do like mysteries. I like a good like murder mystery. I remember
Ryan
watching
Johnson bringing it back.
I remember watching Mayor of Easttown that stars Kate Winslet on HBO Max that premiered I think maybe 2 years ago, and
Yeah,
I ate that up. It was so good.
so
Um,
good.
people
It's
keep asking if she's gonna be doing like a season two, and she's like, "It's got to be right. You can't just do it." And I agree.
yeah,
I don't want a season two if it's not gonna be good.
yeah. Which that became such a big thing, obviously, like everywhere, but very specifically where I'm from, because I'm from South Jersey,
Uh-huh.
and hearing Kate Winslet speaking in like that area of Pennsylvania accent, I'm just like, wow, that's what it really sounds like out loud on television. It was authentic. I give her a lot of credit, and I'm
She's
just
so
like,
good. I
oh, she's
watched that
great.
I watched that show and I guess I hadn't seen her in anything in a while, but I watched it and I'm like, she's a good actress. She's so she's so
I
talented.
feel like she reached the point where we kind of take her for granted,
Yeah,
of
for
just
sure.
like, yeah, she's great in everything, so you just kind of just expect that of her. But yeah, Mayor of Easton was so good,
So good. I
so
loved it.
good. We'll get back to talking about the people in front of the camera in a bit,
Yeah.
but who are some of your favorite filmmakers behind the camera?
Yeah. Well, we just talked about Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan. He
Hmm.
is someone I think is what we call a superstar director because it doesn't even matter what the movie's about. Once you hear he's working on a new project and it's coming out in 2035, you know you're gonna go watch it. It doesn't matter what it's about.
Absolutely.
So I think because he's just solidified himself as this visionary and this brilliant, amazing filmmaker, even with his movies that I don't love, I can still
Hmm.
appreciate. And I know that I'm still gonna keep on watching his movies. I'm still gonna go to the theater and watch his films. So I think he's very special. And then I already mentioned Jordan Peele, which is he is I love that you feel from his movies he has something to say, but he also wants to make it in a way that's like entertaining and like
Yes.
um so I appreciate his filmmaking. I really love his story too, coming from like this comedic world and this
Hmm.
entire time he has like this little horrifying brain that's coming up with all these stories.
Oh, it showed through. I remember watching Key and Peele all the way through and just realizing I'm like, some of these skits are messed up. And especially with like both of them in drag with the puppy
Uh-huh.
store, and they're like, I just want to cut you up and eat every bit of you, and then they're walking away from like a pet cemetery of all the dogs. I'm just like,
That's pretty creepy. So you picked up on it. You picked
yeah,
up on
I'm like, something's twisted here. And then so it didn't really surprise me when like Get Out. Well, I think Get Out surprised everybody because like who thought that Jordan Peele from Key and Peele was going to turn out to be like the next big thing in directing, but
uh-huh.
like it was there underneath, and then he got to show it. And I know it wasn't as well received. You know, I lost it every time watching his Twilight Zone show, and him it's like,
Right, he did do that.
and him just like strolling into frame and just like, he's gonna say it. And he's just like,
Yeah.
and they found themselves in the Twilight Zone. And I'm just like, I loved it every single time, every single episode.
Yeah, because
But
now he's made you excited to watch his content. So it's kind of like the level of Chris Nolan, like very different directors and different vision, but like it's like that status. Like you hear he's
yeah,
working on something and you know, oh, I'm gonna go and watch this.
it's I I don't know if there's anything that has made me laugh harder in a movie in a like that whole entire year Nope came out than Daniel Kaluuya just being like, nope. And just closing the door. I'm just like, there
Yeah,
it is.
there
And
it
because
is.
it's so subversive too. It's just like
Mhm.
in any other horror movie, dumbass would have got out of the truck. And he's just like, no, I'm
Yeah.
doing this. I'm like, yes, that's why you're the best. But it's very interesting, Mel, that you brought up both of them because it's so funny sitting in a theater and you're
Mhm.
watching the trailers, and then all of a sudden you're the only person that get audibly gasps when syncope comes up on the screen because you know exactly what's coming
Yeah.
because you know it's a Nolan trailer because that happened during Nope, wasn't it? I think that was the first time they teased the Oppenheimer trailer.
Oh,
Um,
I don't
because I'm
remember.
sitting there like, you know, it came to like a black screen and you're like, oh, the movie's gonna, well, Nicole Kidman's coming on, but soon the movie's gonna start. And then it's just like syncope getting across the screen. I'm like, and I just got so excited and nobody else did. It's really sad. But it's funny because you see that, you know you're in for something special. And then you see this, that little monkey paw,
You
like
know,
turning that T, and you're just like, yep, Jordan Peele's back with something. I'm
is
excited to see what it is.
exactly. Yeah, they both definitely get those feelings out of me, and I'm really excited to see like what else Jordan Peele's working on. I haven't looked up anything yet because I also do like sometimes just like they got just like being surprised. I'm like, oh, new movie? Okay, I'm gonna go watch.
I'm waiting to find out what one or two words the title is going to be.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he does very, very, very short titles. This is true.
I'm waiting for one to just be like K. And I'd still be like, oh my God, it's Jordan Peele. What's this going to be about? And, it's fun that way. Now, getting back in front of the camera, who are some of your favorite actors or actresses?
I think that Angela Bassett is a queen. She is like she's like frighteningly so talented, like
Mhm.
commanding presence, like the camera loves her, like she was born to act. Um, and I love Denzel Washington. I love Leonardo DiCaprio. I still feel like he should have won for The Wolf of Wall Street for his first Oscar. That's just how I feel. And
Lost to that Matthew McConaughey.
yeah, that's right. Ugh, you reminded me. I'm like, Leo DiCaprio just did like some amazing physical comedy that I've ever seen on screen, and you're not gonna award him this Golden Man statue?
His dancing lives in my head rent free for forever. Uh, when
Yeah, it's
he's
forever a
dancing at
gift.
his wedding.
Yes, it's forever a gift now because he's amazing.
Yeah.
And then we have like what we call the chameleon actors who can also be like movie stars though, which I think is rare. And
Mhm.
that's why I'm gonna say I'm a fan of Jennifer Lawrence.
Mhm.
Anytime she's working on something, I know I'm gonna watch. I think what I said about the chameleon and also movie star, meaning I feel like in every role that she plays, she really commits, and I believe her in that role. But she is also like this globe trotting international star, and I feel like that is something I think like a lot of like drama students in school like wish they could do both, like be a really great actor and also like be noticed for your work. And I
Yeah.
think like she's like been able to do that. So and I think she probably has more like 4 Oscar noms now, which is like a testament again to like her talent. So I
She
really
started when
love
she was like a teenager
yeah. And
with
she's like
Winter's
never
Bone.
yes, a Winter's Bone, I still think is like probably one of her best roles.
And she had a lot to carry
Yeah.
as a young actress in that movie. And that movie's heavy, like
Yeah.
real heavy. And I feel like for the most part, I do agree that she commits unless it's like 4 X-Men movies deep. And
Oh
you can
yeah.
tell she doesn't want to be there anymore.
It's a paycheck movie.
I'm pretty sure you could tell like halfway through Days of Future Past, he's just kind of like, I'm done with this. And then Apocalypse and Dark
Yeah.
Phoenix happen still.
Oh, Dark Phoenix. We try to forget that movie, but yeah, that did
Well, I
happen.
think Disney wants you to forget that movie existed. They're just like, we're gonna dump this and New Mutants, and you're never gonna think about this ever again.
Yeah, and we don't. But yeah, apart from the paycheck movies, she's fabulous.
I thought she was great in what the hell's it called? Her that new comedy that came out this summer. Like I found her so charming and funny.
Yeah, I thought
Um,
it was a great change of pace because she's like in real life she is so funny, but like most of her roles have been kind of like dark
mhm.
and serious. So she's so good.
And then I had the worst because, like you mentioned, Angela Bassett and Denzel Washington, and all I could think of is both of them looking so frustrated that they didn't win Oscars. They very obviously should have. Because, like,
Like the most recent one for Angela.
the Oscars this year, I
Yeah.
love Jamie Lee Curtis, and she's like the only one who should not have won the Oscar for her performance. Like, I
Yeah.
thought she was fun and everything everywhere all at once, but like,
Like Angela in that speech in Black Panther, like there was no way that
she should have won an Oscar from the trailer. That one where she talking about how she has lost everything. I'm
like I'm
like,
still thinking about it now. I'm getting chilled.
I'm like, she's winning an Oscar. But I just remember sitting in a theater with not high expectations, because like for Fences, because like
Yeah.
I'd never read the play or anything like that, and it's a play turned into a movie, and then you just watch Denzel Washington tear it down for a whole entire film. Not to take anything away from Viola Davis, who also tore it down the whole entire
Oh,
movie
amazing.
too.
Yeah. She's
But
awesome.
sitting there watching Casey Affleck stage for Best Actor and just looking at Denzel Washington just being like, I'm just like, he knows he should have won. He knows it too. We all know it.
We
Not
are.
to take anything away from that very emotional performance that Casey Affleck had in Manchester by the Sea, but like Denzel Washington filling the shoes of like James Earl Jones from this iconic play and just killing it every single second in that movie. I'm just like, yeah, he should have won.
Yeah. Yeah. He's one of those actors like him and Viola and Angela, like I put them as like what is that thing called of all the presidents? Sorry, y'all.
Mount Rushmore. Yeah.
Yes, like they belong on there. Like they are acting. Like they're actors. Like people need to be studying them. They're so amazing.
There's a reason why I'm still excited about Equalizer movies. It's literally because of Denzel Washington. I'll watch Denzel Washington take out a whole bunch of mobsters come September 1st when Equalizer 3 comes out. So on vacation,
For sure.
hanging out in Italy, Mafia gets in his way. Denzel shows him who's boss. And I'm looking forward to it. So, but, and that's the thing, because, he balances, he'll do Magnificent Seven with Anton Fuqua, and then, he'll absolutely devastate you emotionally in Fences, and you're just like, yep, it's
Yeah,
Denzel Washington for you.
for sure. For sure.
For sure. Now, what's a film that you feel like you could watch literally every day?
Um, hmm. I'm trying to think of an answer apart from The Mummy because when I got that movie on Blu-ray as a gift, I watched it like every day for a month and I was never sick of it. I was never sick of it. It's just it is a comfort movie.
That good.
Probably like a rom-com
Mm-hmm.
because there's some good old-fashioned rom-coms which I feel like were a bigger thing back in the day and I think it's like every
Rom-coms have
year
been
kind of
like
like slowly.
destroyed in
Yeah,
like the past
it's
like 5-10 years.
yeah, I feel
That's
like every
sad.
2 years we may get one good one where everyone's talking about it, but I feel like back in the day they were as big as some superhero movies. So
Well, and like well, and I think because a lot of them had like Julia Roberts vehicles,
Yeah.
like Pretty Woman, like
Yeah.
was a huge hit. And not surprising, the only rom-com that's made money in the past like 5 years was Ticket to Paradise with her and George Clooney. So apparently Julia Roberts can still sell rom-com, apparently. Which
Guess so.
there's not a whole lot of them come out, but like, oh, if I am a huge fan of Crazy Stupid Love.
Oh.
So some parts of that movie have gotten weird over time. Specifically talking of specifically talking about, babysitter and teenage boy storyline that I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't think I really need that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that has also changed. Like, like in a post Me Too culture, like certain things just don't fly by as well in this day and
Yeah,
age.
her casually handing him naked pictures of herself, and he's like
Yeah.
15. I'm like, what? Weird. It's all weird.
It's a little
Um,
weird, a little weird. It's
but
over time.
I laugh well, also as somebody who has very large flat feet, I love my New Balance. And I only feel slightly attacked when Ryan Gosling's like, "What's with the New Balance? What are you in a fraternity?" And he just like chucks them off of the balcony. And I'm like, no.
Oh,
And
what a
then
weird.
when he takes out his Velcro wallet and
Hmm.
and Ryan Gosling's reaction to it, their dynamic is priceless. And then, Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone have a lot of chemistry.
They've
And
done a lot of movies together.
yeah,
Like 3 or 4. Yeah.
so that's definitely a rom-com that like I'll put on and enjoy a lot.
Yeah.
Also, my wife and I love forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yeah.
Um, which I want, like, there's romance in it, but I feel like it's more about, getting over a
Mhm.
romance.
Mhm.
I love Jason Segel. But anyway, now what's a film that you connect with closely because it relates to another interest of yours?
Hmm. I feel like over the years there's been movies about like millennials who are out
Mhm.
here in the city trying to live their life, trying to figure it out. Maybe they're just like tripping up and things they deal with like disappointments in all facets of life. One of those movies. Or like all of those movies. For sure, for sure. It's hard to pin down one,
Mhm.
but that is like the most realistic ones. It's probably why, but I also probably gravitate towards more of like maybe a sci-fi or fantasy, like lately Silo. Don't know if you guys have seen it, but that's a pretty good show on Apple.
Yep.
I'm surprised how much I liked that show.
You literally have to get through the first two episodes to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Very few shows, it's like, yeah, we're gonna make you wait 2 whole episodes to meet your protagonist.
Yeah, which was a risk because I mean, I didn't love episode 1, but then somebody said, get past the first episode, like it becomes a different show. And I was like, okay, fine. And then like Rebecca Ferguson's character comes in
Yes.
and it's like, oh, okay, so this is what the story is.
Mhm.
So
Love Rebecca Ferguson. She's great.
great.
And yeah, that's definitely a very interesting and intriguing show. I'm like, well, that better get picked up for another season, Apple.
Yes,
I'm
it
ready to
is.
find it. I'm
It
like,
is.
and we'll get it in like 2 years.
I know. It's like, when is anything gonna come out? It's like so hard to know.
That's a tough thing about making shows with big budgets like that. It's just like, well, we gotta film it. We get this all ready.
Mhm.
But Apple has all that Apple money,
They
so
do. It's
they'll
true.
keep making it. Now, who's a movie character you feel like you connect with on a personal level?
Um, oh man, this is a little personal. Maybe. Okay, so I grew up watching a lot of like the rom-coms and whatnot. So
Yeah.
that included like a lot of like Drew Barrymore movies as well.
Mhm.
And her very famous one was Never Been Kissed, where like you get to see her when she's like 25 and an adult, she has a job, an apartment, and then you get to see her as this teenager who's kind of like She's kind of bullied and she doesn't really have that many friends. And she's kind of like heartbroken at 18 years old. But you kind of get to see a little bit of the teenage person in her as an adult.
Mhm.
And I kind of feel like sometimes I feel that way still, where like I'm grown and I've learned things, but sometimes you kind of like still like deal with things from like your past or things that you're still trying to like heal through and whatnot and trying to get over some humps. So yeah, I bet. And then that one wasn't too sad. It was a movie that was still a
Mhm.
movie because it's still like it has like that fantasy ending where she finally like everything comes together and everything's perfect. So it's a good escape. But yeah, probably that one.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and it's certainly that's definitely something that connects on a
Mhm.
very human level of like, there's certain things about ourselves that like maybe we've grown out of or we've been able to get past, but it kind of all lingers a little bit back
Yeah, yeah.
there. High school Shane's still in there somewhere. And I'm like, come a long way, but you still have that kind of hanging there. So it's an
Yeah.
interesting movie to think about to make that connection, though.
Mhm.
Now, what's a film that you love that you think would surprise people?
Okay, I did have to ask the cavalry for this because I was like, because I like so many different genres, I
Yeah.
don't know what's surprising. But a friend told me that he was surprised that I like Mission Impossible. And which is interesting
Hmm.
because I am a fan of that franchise. I don't love all the movies the same,
Hmm.
but there's times where like I like the idea of the spy subgenre, but I don't watch all of them. But for some reason, like that franchise did capture my attention that to the point where, I know I'm gonna go out and watch that new Mission Impossible movie. So probably that one.
It needs your support, really, because it's not quite making how much Tom Cruise wanted it to make.
I
Um,
know, I know.
I am also a big fan of Mission Impossible.
Mhm.
Like I remember having the first one on VHS and watching that a lot. And I've seen the last four of them in theaters. So like I've seen Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Fallout, and Dead Reckoning Part 1. Last two, like I saw Fallout in a Dolby theater at AMC.
Huh.
I felt like I was on the motorcycle with Tom Cruise. I'm like, oh my God. Or in a helicopter during
Yeah.
that whole sequence at the end of the movie. I'm like, it was exhilarating. But like they're just I'm a huge action movie fan, and I'm also very snobby when it comes to action movies. And they're so well done, and it's hard not to appreciate, the commitment and the fact that Tom Cruise is probably gonna die making one of them someday. So
Yeah, and he takes so much pride in doing so. I actually became like a fan, weirdly, like in the middle of the series, like with Ghost Protocol. Like I
yeah,
remember watching that and like just being like sucked into this. Like I'm into the intrigue and like
yeah,
all the running with his hands like this. Like he still does this to this day. And um climbing that building and it was also really funny and I love like all
yeah.
of like team getting together and they have to work together. Like I was like sucked into it. And then I really loved Rogue Nation with I think that was the first time that I saw Rebecca Ferguson in something, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
She was great
Elsa's
in that.
so great as a
Yeah.
character.
Mhm.
I just love the relationship between Ethan, Benji, and Luther. Like
Yeah.
the three of them, it's just great. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
And seeing Ving Rhames popping up and stuff still in 2023, I'm like, you go, Ving Rhames. Because
Yeah.
he's literally he's been in, if not all of them, almost every single one of them
Wow.
over all of this time. And that's commitment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Gotta love it.
now my last question for you, Mel, is what do you love most about movies?
I love that it allows us to get an inside look at other people's lives, because I think depending on where you live, maybe you're not used to being around a certain group of people.
Hmm.
And if it were not for certain television shows or movies, you would never be able to see another person's side of things which I think it could be for entertainment, but sometimes it could also really be very powerful as well. And so I love that aspect of it. And that also helps us to build our like empathy muscle as well. Um, so yeah, I think though they are the best for that. I love when I get to watch a type of movie where it's kind of one of those like eye-opening type of things.
Mhm.
Because maybe also you're not, you know, that into like the news or like politics, but like, you know, there's like a new movie made by, I don't know, Scorsese or something. And then like he makes a movie about it and you're like, oh man, I didn't know that was going on in New York. Or like, oh man, I don't know what he was thinking. So it's a way, it's like a different way to open up our eyes to certain things, whether it is um funny or something that's like really powerful and dramatic, but it can be told in like a storytelling type of way for us to be, you know, be able to digest it. So I really appreciate them for that.
Well, and I love that answer too, because as a kid from a very small town that was very, very, very white,
Mhm.
and I didn't interact with a whole lot of people different than me before I went away to college. And being able to watch film and really getting to experience other people's experiences, like I'm such a huge fan of seeing films from all around the world, whether it's Asian cinema or South American cinema or African cinema, is just being able to get lost in somebody else's experience.
Mhm.
And, you know, it helps you see other people's perspectives. And like you brought up Scorsese, like what's Scorsese's next film? It's a whole entire film about, why are Native Americans still sore about what happened to them? Because this kind of shit happened. And I can't wait for Killers of the Flower Moon. And it's like that kind of thing still resonates in people like 100 years later. And there's pretty messed up things we're gonna see in that film. My wife read the book too beforehand, so like she's a big like into like nonfiction and stuff like that. So we're both very excited for the film, but like being able to, get lost in other people's cultures and being able to connect in that way, it's special. And especially for, some people who, especially growing up, not the most social, being
Mhm.
able to like connect. And I joke I'm a hobbit. I don't like to travel very much. And being able to get lost in a film and like it was funny because one of my other shows, I always leave recommendations, and I realized all three films I recommended were Japanese. And I'm like, that wasn't on purpose. But, it's interesting and being able to experience all those things. Now, I always like to wrap up my show by letting my guests ask me questions. So, what would you like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
Hmm. I feel like this is, maybe you've gotten it before, but because we're movie fans, I am curious about your answer. If you were able to have a, let's say, a drink, if you're drinks with three movie characters, who would you have drinks with?
That is a very interesting question. I'm gonna lead with the joke that I don't drink, so I'm gonna be sitting there watching them drink. But
Dinner. It could be dinner as well. What you want to share a meal with?
I would love to have dinner with some movie characters. I I want to have dinner with Mr. Keating from Dead Poet Society because I wish I had a teacher like that
I
at
know.
some point in my life.
Oh.
And I just love that character so much. I'm trying to think of my like favorite characters in movies, and it's just like some of them I would not want to have. But I want to have dinner with the dude,
The dude from
the Big Lebowski.
Mhm.
I feel like he would just be a fun time. I'm probably picking up the bill, but with putting his like, which also when he buys milk at the beginning of that movie and it's like 40 cents, I'm just like inflation. And he uses a credit card. I'm like, so Mr. Keating, the dude, and this is gonna seem like an odd one, but I want to have dinner with Salieri from Amadeus because I want to understand what's going through that man's head because
That one.
he's a fascinating character. It's like Amadeus is probably my favorite biopic.
Oh,
And like I air quote the biopic part because most of that stuff probably didn't actually happen. You know how hard it is to make a biopic about somebody who lived like hundreds of years ago? But like coming from like hearing Mozart's story from like a mediocre composer that always lived in his shadow is such a fascinating experience.
yeah.
And like Salieri has all these delusions of grandeur. Like
Mhm.
he's like, God killed my father, so I could go become a musician. It's just like, okay, guy. But like I feel like it would be a fascinating conversation. Might be the downer of our little dinner here, but I think it would be interesting.
F Murray something is
Abraham,
Abraham.
yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I recently just binged White Lotus season 2, and I know he's in that movie. I haven't seen it yet.
Um his character in White Lotus season 2 is very accurate of older Italian men. Just putting that out there. As an Italian American from New Jersey, watching White Lotus season 2, I'm just like, wow, that family's Italian. Uh,
Oh my God. That's not very hopeful news. I saw that show and I was like, everybody on the show is a terrible person. It's kind of hard for me to root for them because I don't like perfect characters, but I still need some sort of like likability, you
Not gonna
know?
lie, I was really rooting for the sex workers, the two of
Yeah.
them, because I'm like, you know what? Go get it.
Take take the money.
Take it. It's like, you know, Michael Imperioli's so full of himself and thinks that he's trying to be a better person, but it's like he's not really. And
Mhm.
F. Murray Abraham's definitely your problematic old Italian grandpa.
Yes, he is. He
Yes.
is.
Unfortunately, it sounds like he's that way in real life too, which is why he's not on Mythic Quest anymore.
Oh,
Um,
really? Oh, there's tea.
yes, apparently he was not. It wasn't mutual. His character getting written off of Mythic Quest, which,
Oh,
not gonna lie, he was one of my favorite characters on Mythic Quest, and F. Murray Abraham's a great actor, but like, gotta play nice with others.
yeah. Certainly
But
do.
well, and that's the thing too, because like some of my favorite directors,
Mhm.
Stanley Kubrick was a piece of crap, but
Mm.
boy, does he make fascinating films. And unfortunately, he got some of those films made because he was a terrible person. Like, I don't think there's any instance you need to make an actor do 180 takes of something
Mhm. Yeah.
except your own twisted, like, power trip. And look at The Shining, my favorite horror movie. But how we got there, was it worth it? That's a very
Yeah.
interesting big question, but I will look forward to my dinner with Mr. Keating the Dude and Salieri and see how that goes.
That sounds like a fascinating dinner.
It, at the very least, it will be. So it's probably why I wanted to pick it. But Mel, thank you so much for coming on and chatting movies with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking me to do this. It was a fun time. And yeah, next time, you guys, I'm happy to be here again. Thanks for asking me to over.
And I'll be more than happy to have you come back. I have like 5 rounds of questions. Just keep cycling through people. But thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.